Tri-Cities is a young and vibrant city where mountains and hills sweep over the land and rivers converge, producing endless recreational activities. But this area has an exceptional history of geological catastrophic events. Floods. Floods derived from massive eruptions of volcanoes to the Ice Age floods. Each event produced unique geological features that enhances our land and our lifestyle. Come and explore as we uncover its extensive and endless history. The Earth, our living destiny, filled with 65 billion years of unique secrets. Geologists move out to explore the wide open landscape of the Columbia Basin. When looking at the geological history here in the Tri-Cities, there are three rock types. First, there is basalt, this black rock which makes up most of the hills and valleys. Then sitting on top of the basalt, we have the Ringgold Formation, which is part of the ancestral Columbia River. Finally, we have the Missoula flood deposits created from the Ice Age. The Mid-Columbia is one of the three largest basaltic lava floods, or flood basalts, ever to appear on the Earth's surface, also known as the Columbia River flood basalts. The other two great basalt floods are the Deccan traps in western India and the Siberian traps in northern Siberia. But these examples cannot compare to the massive floods here in the Mid-Columbia. It generated huge volumes of basalt over a very short period of time. But what are flood basalts?
A flood basalt is essentially a series of lava flows that cover huge areas. They flooded the landscape.
These eruptions began near Lewiston, Idaho, flowed through the Tri-Cities and down into Portland, Oregon. That's over 40,000 cubic miles of basaltic lava flowing over the landscape. Over time, this lava accumulated layer after layer, therefore creating a thickness of 6,000 feet in depth. This formed a great plateau between the Cascade Range and the Rocky Mountains. The Tri-Cities is at the heart of these lava flows. We are surrounded by different ages of exposed lava. There is one significant theory on how these great floods covered the area.
These lava flows were probably derived from a huge plume of magma moving up through the earth and up to the lithosphere. And through fractures in the ground, these lava flows erupted at the surface. The ones around here started erupting about 17 million years ago and continued until about 6 million years ago. The youngest ones in the Tri-Cities area are the Pomona and Elephant Mountain, which are about 12 and 10 million years ago respectively, and then a little bit of something we call the Ice Harbor lavas. And the Ice Harbor lavas erupted from a vent over near Ice Harbor Dam. And that vent is actually a very nice small volcano, probably about maybe 100 yards across. And the rivers have cut a beautiful cross-section through that volcano.
On the contrary, you would expect to see flat-lying rocks making up this plateau. However, there are a series of dome-like elongated ridges along Rattlesnake Mountain to Wallula Gap. These ridges are an alignment of geological features that extend from the north side of the peninsula to the north side of the Wallowa Mountains. These vast ridges were created through tectonic forces.
These tectonic forces were essentially north-south compressive forces, or pushing of the land from the north and the south. And that began a process of folding and faulting of the basalt flows. We see those folding and faulting now on the ridges that make up places like Rattlesnake Mountain, Badger Mountain, Jump Off Joe, and any of the very popular hills. These are what we call anticlines, or arches. And the arches represent the lava flows as they began to buckle. The valleys between the arches are what we call synclines, and these synclines essentially are, again, part of the buckling process, but they represent troughs.
The Ringgold Formation happened after the last eruption of flood basalts. From about 8 million years ago to about 4.5 million years ago, the ancestral Columbia River began to flow over the landscape carrying sediments. And these sediments began to build up, layer after layer, filling those troughs or anticlines.
We see the White Bluffs in particular with lots of Ringgold Formation. The sediment built up to about the height of the present White Bluffs. Then about 4 million years ago, the area changed. Probably uplift related to the growth of the Cascades caused our old region to start slightly raise itself in elevation. As the area began to rise, the Columbia River began to downcut through all these sediments. And so when we look at areas like the White Bluffs
If you just envision that elevation across the entire area filled with sediment, then that's what the area looked like until about probably 4 million years ago.
The Columbia, Snake, and Yakima River have converged here in the mid-Columbia, and they have a significant history as they moved into this area.
Rivers like the Columbia River and the Snake River and Walla Walla and Yakima rivers are all products of the times after these lava flows erupted.
Smallmouth bass, baby. Welcome to the Tri-Cities.
During these basalt flows and rivers converging, there was enough time between these flows to create a moist and humid environment. As a result, subtropical trees began to grow, creating large forests.
These are the trees that you can now see at the Vantage area in the ginkgo petrified forest. The trees would establish themselves after the last lava flow would erupt, and then you would see huge forests grow, and then through time, as much as through 10,000 years of development of forest, then the next lava flow might come out, and that would just shear off a lot of the trees and bury those trees under the next lava flow. Given enough time, these trees that were buried in the lava flows would then begin to petrify. That is, silica from groundwater, hot groundwater, would begin to move into these trees and replace the wood with silica. And that gave us the petrified forest.
At the peak of the Ice Age, a thick slate moved down through Canada, cutting through mountains and carrying huge boulders with it. As it moved into western Montana, it suddenly stopped, therefore damming up the Clark Fork River.
During the last Ice Age, 2.5 million to as recently as about 15,000 years ago, we had the world's largest freshwater floods. These floods are massive. There may have been as many as 100 floods and contained over 500 cubic miles of water and flowed at a flow rate of 17,000 cubic meters per second, and they were released out of Lake Missoula in a matter of just 2 days.
As these floodwaters and icebergs moved at 80 miles an hour over the mid-Columbia, it came to a narrow constriction at Wallula Gap and slowly funneled half of the water through this gap. There was so much water, however, it backed up, forming a temporary lake called Lake Lewis. These waters rushed up the surrounding valleys, including the Tri-Cities. In a matter of just a few days, Lake Lewis drained out, leaving behind sand and silt beds, deep canyons, exposed basalt, and large foreign boulders that we call erratics. These erratics that are left here from the massive floods are enormous. They are not made of the black basalt that forms our bedrock. Rather, they are granite, a black and white salt and pepper look. They are left in places high above the water level seen today, such as Badger Mountain. They are clearly not from around here, and only the theory of the Missoula floods can explain this mystery.
And some of the classic features that we have in this area that are kind of on the must-see list are Wallula Gap. Wallula Gap is a national natural landmark, so it's been recognized as an unusual feature that needs to be recognized and protected. And then there's the Drumheller Channels, which is just west of Othello. And it's got classic channel scabland features. You get these rough basins and buttes, and there's potholes and gravel bars. So it's a really unusual landform. It's a great place to visit. Then Palouse Falls is another one that's a classic that people have to see. And it's a waterfall, and we call them cataracts. And it actually started at the Snake River. So there is an awful lot out there to see. There's an awful lot of resources for people to tap into, books and videos, the Ice Age Flood Institute. There's a number of opportunities for people to come out and join us and experience the floods firsthand.
Now that you have seen how history is created from the basalt floods to the Missoula floods, look for yourself at the beauty that lies in front of you. Take a relaxing boat ride up the Snake River to Ice Harbor Dam and look at one of the connections to these great floods. You can go for a hike up to the top of Badger Mountain and enjoy this majestic view. Visit the Petrified Forest and Museum, which has exciting types of petrified wood. Or just take a drive to Palouse Falls and feel the power of these mighty floods. Stimulate your senses with history and splendor of the Mid-Columbia, which enhances our land and our lifestyle.